Hello and welcome back to Curry Soup. Today, we'll be covering part 2 of the 5 unique medical illnesses you probably never heard of before. If you haven't seen our part 1 yet, go ahead and check it out. I'll leave the link down in the description box below, so make sure to check that out. Without wasting any more time, let's get straight into it. The first medical illness we'll be covering today is called Alice in Wonderland Syndrome, AIWS, or it's also called Thought Syndrome. This is a neurological disorder where there's a distortion in the sense of body image, space, and time. If you remember Alice in Wonderland, the cartoon we were all told when we were kids, Alice will actually go into the rabbit hole and all of a sudden she'll be a tiny human being, and then when she meets the Queen of Hearts, I think she'll all of a sudden be a giant. So this is exactly what happens in Alice in Wonderland syndrome. They won't know how big or how small their body parts are. For example, their hand might look to them as if it's 5 feet tall. Their head, when they look in the mirror, it might look very small. And Alice in Wonderland symptom doesn't just affect the sense of body image, it also space and time. So sometimes they'll feel like people are moving very fast in front of them, like as if you played fast forward in a video. Or sometimes people may be moving in slow motion in front of you. To us, or at least myself, when I read about it, it sounded kind of cool. But then putting myself in the shoe of the patient, this will cause severe anxiety, fear. It may come across as being very alarming, like all of a sudden people are moving very fast around you. All of a sudden your hand is very big or very small. And this distortion, it's not like one long process, it comes and goes few times a day. So even if like after they recover from their anxiety, their panic already, all of a sudden it might just come again, just inducing the fear and panic all over again. The second condition we're going to look at is called Jerusalem disorder. This is a religiously themed obsessive idea, delusions or hallucinations that are triggered by or that lead to a visit to the city of Jerusalem. And this condition is not restricted to any particular group of people or any particular religion. Anyone can get this. In extreme cases, patients might even believe that they themselves are figures of biblical times. For example, there was a case of a Canadian tourist who honestly believed that he was the Israelite warrior Samson and tried to destroy the Western Wall. Or there was an Austrian man who demanded from his hotel chef to prepare him the exact same meal that Jesus had during the Last Supper. Or an Irish tourist who was rushed to the hospital because she claimed she was going to deliver a baby already, saying that she was the next Virgin Mary, despite not being pregnant at all. The third condition we're going to cover is called Paris syndrome. And this syndrome is unique to Japanese people for some reason. It's characterized by mental breakdown when a Japanese tourist visits Paris or France or Spain in general. This is sort of like an extreme version of culture shock, and it can express itself in many forms like derealization, depersonalization, anxiety, hallucinations, acute delusional states. The theory behind why Paris syndrome occurs is there is this preconceived belief of the romantic city of Paris. Like they already have a mental image of what Paris is supposed to look like based on the movies they've watched and based on the stories people told them. But when they get there, all of a sudden there's this massive language barrier, the cultural difference, and it doesn't satisfy their image of what Paris is supposed to look like. And all this pushes them into a mental breakdown. Next, we have the foreign accent syndrome. This is a condition where someone speaks their own native language as if their own language is like some foreign language. And this is not the same like the Indian uncle who drinks and then starts speaking English as if he just came off the ship from US. No, this is because of usually stroke or any brain trauma which cause lesion in the language center of the brain. This condition is usually preceded by any head trauma, accident or stroke. And finally, we have the Stockholm Syndrome. Stockholm Syndrome is a psychological response in victims. Victims will start showing signs of sympathy, loyalty, and even voluntary compliance to the victimizers, regardless of the risk to themselves. The more common and more well-known version of Stockholm Syndrome is usually in hostage abduction situations, but it also occurs in cases of rape, child abuse, and domestic abuse. The name Stockholm Syndrome comes from an actual incident in 1973 when there was a bank robbery in Sweden, in Stockholm, Sweden. The hostages became so emotionally attached to the bank robbers that even after they were released, they were fighting to defend them and completely refusing to testify against these robbers. The most famous case of Stockholm Syndrome is when a daughter of a millionaire was kidnapped. Her name was Patty Hearst and she was kidnapped in 1974. The weirdest part is her Stockholm Syndrome was so strong that after that, she herself organized and joined these kidnappers in another bank robbery. And that's the 5 unique medical illnesses you probably have never heard of before. If you like this video, if you learned anything at all from this video, the only thing I ask you is to share this with a friend or family member, spread the knowledge. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, go ahead and smash the subscribe button right there, and please do click the bell icon because YouTube's algorithm is changing all the time and we want to make sure our videos come and reach you. And until the next informative video, in anything you do, do your best and be the best version of yourself. Bye bye.